Before iPhones buzzed with that smooth marimba tone, before smartphones ruled your pocket and streaming ruled your life, there was a time when your entire social status hinged on something seemingly insignificant: your ringtone. The year is 2005. You're walking down the street when suddenly, yeah, that sound. That cursed, chaotic, squeaky ringtone that infected millions of phones and brains. It came from a digital frog in a helmet, goggles, and, yes, its privates flapping around like it paid rent. And somehow, it took over the world. It hijacked phones, topped the UK music charts, even beating Coldplay off the #1 spot, launched video games, sold merch, and somehow raked in over $500 million. $500 million from that. But here's the part no one talks about. Behind the ringtone, behind the weird frog and its chaos, was a scam. A global trap that tricked millions of people, leaving them with mystery charges on their phone bills for months, sometimes years. Families who couldn't afford it. Teens who didn't understand it. Elderly folks who never even wanted it. All of them caught in a web of digital fine print that was nearly impossible to escape. This is the story of how a crude animation and an annoying noise turned into a money-making monster by exploiting early tech confusion and a lack of digital rules. The crazy frog. The scam no one seems to remember, but after today, you'll never forget it. Phones in the 2000s, total dinosaurs compared to today's tech. People who owned these tiny, shiny devices could only do a little with them to get a personalized experience. No app stores, no Face ID, no touchscreens. Back then, personalization was limited. You couldn't change your wallpaper to a motivational quote or flex your Spotify Wrapped, but you could change your ringtone, and that was everything. And when the choice of having ringtones other than the default ones presented itself, it was no surprise that the people opted for this to look cool. With a variety of options from several ringtone companies, and people wanting something different, funny ringtones were almost every average person's first choice, because they were simply not boring. Boring meant uncool, and no one wanted to be termed that. The weirder, the better. The more heads that turned when your phone rang in public, the cooler you were. And right around this time, the internet was blowing up with memes and viral videos, with a particular kind of these videos becoming more popular, the animated kind. Simple loops, funny sounds, repeatable gags. It was meme culture in its infancy, and it set the perfect stage for the rise of a digital gremlin that would hijack phones and wallets around the world. In 1997, somewhere in Sweden, a 17-year-old named Daniel Malmedal was just making noises. But not just any noises. Daniel had a special talent. He could perfectly imitate the sound of a two-stroke engine using nothing but his mouth. His friends, obsessed. They told him to record it, and he did, saving it under the file name 2takter.mp3. Just a joke, just for laughs. Then it spread. For years, it was just another weird internet curiosity circulating on sites like the Insanity Test. Just another strange sound file people shared for laughs. Just another meme, before we even called them memes. It bounced from inbox to inbox like a digital chain reaction. Still, it was just a funny file. Until 2003, when another Swede named Eric Wernquist stumbled across it online. Now, Eric wasn't just a random guy. He was a struggling 3D animator, looking to build his portfolio. When he stumbled across the strange engine sound, something clicked. What if this sound had a face? What if this annoying noise was coming from something? On October the 7th, 2003, Eric posted a short animation called The Annoying Thing on his website and the professional CG Talk forum. It featured a strange, naked, grayish-blue character, making Daniel's engine sound while riding an invisible motorcycle. It blew up, racking up over 12,400 views, which back then was viral. It spread through file-sharing networks, eventually reaching back to Daniel himself, who was credited as the sound's creator. Cool moment, fun buzz, just another weird internet thing that had its 15 minutes. Then it all died down. Eric and Daniel went back to their normal lives. The animation became just another digital curiosity. Until one day, Eric received a phone call. The Annoying Thing had gained much popularity and wasn't so annoying to companies who wanted to use it for their marketing. Eric started getting offers, but one in particular was pushy to get him to sign the deal. A German ringtone giant called Jamba, known as Jamster in some regions. They had built their empire selling simple tunes and characters like Sweetie the Chick and Schnuffle Bunny to mobile phone users. But they wanted a blockbuster. See, downloading custom ringtones back then wasn't like today. You couldn't just grab an MP3. You needed specialized services to convert and deliver sounds to your specific phone model. And companies like Jamba were making a killing as middlemen. But Jamba was hunting for their next big hit. And when they saw The Annoying Thing, they knew they'd found it. After aggressive negotiations, Jamba secured the rights to The Annoying Thing in 2004 and launched one of the most aggressive ad campaigns ever seen. TVs, everywhere, every hour. That weird frog face. That cursed sound. It was insane, yet genius. You could have the ad popping up twice in just an hour, and you didn't get much of a choice not to be familiar with the grayish-bluish frog that had a funny sound on your screen. The Annoying Thing was later rebranded to Crazy Frog, and there was no escaping from it. Jamba didn't just want Crazy Frog to be seen. They wanted it to invade your dreams and did everything they could possibly do to make that happen. They went full brainwash mode. This would include spending the whopping sum of $44.6 million on ads. It was an insane amount pumped into its genius marketing strategy, more than any other business had done before. Their strategy? Simple but brutal. Make it impossible to escape Crazy Frog. Burn it into your brain until you give in, and it certainly worked. According to research, an estimated 87% of the UK population saw the Crazy Frog ad an average of 26 times. And 10% of people, that's millions of viewers, saw it more than 60 times. The Guardian reported that in May 2005 alone, Jamster bought 73,716 TV ad spots, an average of nearly 2,378 slots daily. People were going insane. The ads were everywhere, during children's shows, primetime programs, late-night TV. There was no escape from that weird blue creature and its incessant sound. But here's the thing about annoying marketing. Sometimes it works spectacularly well. Crazy Frog was the superstar Jamster had wanted it to be. Then came the next level, music. They dropped Axel F, a remix of the Beverly Hills Cop theme under the Crazy Frog name. It became a #1 hit in 30 countries, beating Coldplay in the UK. Jamster hit a jackpot and wasn't stopping just yet. The ringtone phenomenon exploded into a full-blown entertainment empire. 3 albums, 7 music videos with millions of views, merchandise from toys to clothing, 2 video games, and had a frog tour across Australia in the costume of the strange-looking character. It was a massive success that broke through the world. Jamsta's executives were swimming in cash. The parent company's stock price soared. At its peak, this bizarre digital frog was estimated to have generated around $500 million. $500 million. This was nothing like anyone had ever seen before. It was unstoppable. There were even talks of TV shows and movies. This weird little naked blue thing had conquered the world. But success this massive and this annoying doesn't come without pushback. Jamsta had given people more than enough reasons to hate the crazy frog. The adverts were everywhere. The tune was grating and patience was wearing thin. That catchy ringtone now felt more like psychological warfare. By 2005, the breaking point had arrived. Viewers bombarded the United Kingdom's Advertising Standards Authority, ASA, with around 400 complaints. People were seeing the same ad twice an hour across most channels, with some stations cramming it in multiple times during a single commercial break. But frequency wasn't the only issue. Many parents were horrified to discover their kids were being exposed to a naked digital frog with its privates fully visible. Family viewing time had suddenly become awkward explanation time. Surprisingly, the ASA didn't uphold these complaints, pointing out that the advert was already classified as inappropriate for airing during children's television programs as it contained premium-rate telephone numbers. And as for how often it played, that was up to the broadcasters, not the advertisers. But this didn't stop the outrage. Rather, the numerous complaints led to conversations of the crazy frog getting banned. But basically not because its weenie was visible for everyone to see or showing on commercial breaks too often, but for something much more sinister. Something far more troubling was happening behind the scenes. By late 2005, rumors started swirling. People weren't just annoyed, they were being scammed. There were conversations questioning the practices of Jamsta and suspicions regarding the massive success of this character with the annoying ringtone. The truth that Jamsta desperately tried to hide was finally coming to light. Purchasing the ringtone was just as easy as it had always been announced in the adverts. Pay a one-time fee of £3 and get Crazy Frog sent to your phone. But in fact, it wasn't exactly this straightforward. That £3, about $5.40, was just the bait. People were being frog-marched straight into a hidden subscription that drained up to £5, around $9, from them every week. And unlike the frog's invisible motorcycle, these charges were all too real. People only started to notice when their phone bills suddenly skyrocketed. They were being charged for every single text message received from Jamsta, texts they never asked for and didn't want. It was digital pickpocketing at scale. And the worst part? There was no way to cancel. No instructions in the ads, no clear option on the website, no mention of how to stop the charges. The fine print? Basically invisible. The opt-out process? A nightmare. According to critics, the Jamsta service was so impossible to escape that desperate customers would often cancel their entire phone plans just to get rid of it. And here's where it gets even darker. Phone carriers would then recycle those abandoned numbers for new customers, who suddenly started receiving and being charged for Jamsta messages they never signed up for. This wasn't just happening in the UK. In Ireland, Jamsta admitted to overcharging consumers, including minors. Similar investigations and legal actions popped up in the Netherlands, Germany, and the United States. This was a global operation. Finally, the Independent Committee for the Supervision of Standards of Telephone Information Services, ICSTIS, stepped in. They investigated and found Jamsta guilty of showing careless disregard to customers. Their punishment? A £40,000 fine. That's about $72,000 in US dollars, and orders to give refunds to just 338 complainants. a fine of only $72,000 for a scam that generated approximately $500 million in revenue. To put that in perspective, Jamster made roughly £12,500, around $22,500, for every £1 they were fined. That's like getting caught stealing from a bank and being punished with a parking ticket. This laughably small penalty existed because there were simply no proper regulations for ringtone advertisements at that time. Technically, Jamster hadn't broken any specific rules. They had just exploited a massive regulatory blind spot. Still, the damage was done. The backlash was brutal. Public trust? Gone. And the ringtone gold rush? It was about to crash. The Crazy Frog controversy marked the beginning of the end, not just for the amphibian, but for the entire ringtone industry, which would completely crash by 2015. New regulations were introduced requiring subscriptions to be clearly stated. By 2009, the notorious amphibian had disappeared from the cultural landscape. Talk of TV shows and movies evaporated. The last video game was released in 2006, and then silence. The Crazy Frog was gone and almost completely forgotten. But then, like all chaotic exes who always show up at the worst possible time, it made a surprise comeback. On April 22, 2020, yes, during a global pandemic when people were perhaps at their most vulnerable, Crazy Frog returned. A new Twitter account announced plans for a comeback album. And shockingly, people cared. The announcement received over 169 million views. By December 10, 2021, a new single called Tricky was released after a 12-year break. And because it's 2020's internet now, the return came with a shiny new NFT collection, proving that some things never change. Crazy Frog still knows how to capitalize on trends. The Crazy Frog scam might seem like ancient history, but its DNA lives on in the subscription traps we encounter today. Those free trial subscriptions that auto-renew without warning. The premium features that silently charge your account month after month. The confusing cancellation processes designed to make you give up. They're all descendants of the very tactics pioneered during the ringtone gold rush. The only difference is that today's scams come wrapped in sleeker interfaces and more sophisticated dark patterns. But the core strategy remains the same. Distract with something shiny, hide the terms, and make it nearly impossible to escape. The frog was back, for real. And with the kind of viral legacy it left behind, who knows? We just might not be prepared for what's coming next. Only time will tell. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this wild ride. If you remember Crazy Frog, welcome to the club. If you don't, now you know why your older cousin twitched every time their phone rang. See you in the next one.